with Walmart, Lowe's, East Side, and ABS, the old place up there. Kind of gets an idea of the physical size of Jerusalem at the time. So they finished the scourging. They beaten Jesus, put the purple robe on, mocked him, now taking it off, give him the cross for him to carry, and he can't do it. Of course, they get Simon to carry it for him. Goes there, and Golgotha, same word, place of the skull, Calvary, all the same place, just different languages talking about there. Give him something, offer him something to drink to take the edge off. He refused to take that. Then we talked about this slide quite a bit, the different options of how to crucify somebody. There's different types of cross, where you're nailing through here, or how you put the feet, you have a person set on, all those different things that come into play. We don't know exactly, but there are all different options you can read about with how some of the crucifixion. The Romans had it perfected. We'll talk about it a little bit more tonight. Well, quite a bit more. I got a handout I'm going to show you about the death through crucifixion, but it was designed to be brutal, long-lasting, and very painful. And so started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we talked about some of the prophecies that are fulfilled here, forgiving the ones that were doing it to him, not tearing his garment, casting lots, but then for it. What's put above his head, this is the King of the Jews. Herod didn't like it. High priest didn't like it, wanted to take him down. Pilate said, no, what I've written. And there was a lot of mocking. We talk about being a very public place where they did the crucifixions, so people will see it and be a deterrent. Plus, it's a additional harassment to the people on the cross. So you get a combination type thing there with that. And then he gives his mother to John. John takes her to take care of her then. The thieves were both deriding him at first, and then one changed and scolded the other for doing it. And so it's now noon. He's been on the cross in that process now for 3 hours, and then in darkness for 3 hours comes over the whole city. And so you just imagine it turning dark in the middle of the day. And what is? We talked a little bit about this statement, my God, why you forsaken me. I sent you an email about that. If you happen to see it, if you want to read it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. One taking the Psalm 22 version and somebody else taking the opposite, trying to turn it down. So you can read those if you want to there. Again, they offered him sour wine to drink. He refused that. And he says, it is finished. The purpose of why he came to earth is now finished, fulfilled. He's dying for our sins. Father, into your hands I give my spirit willingly. And that kind of brings us up to where we are tonight. So that's a quick run through of what we did last time. So tonight we're in all four Gospels, again, bouncing around. I think this lesson corresponds to 18 in your book, if you're looking at it, and the notebook you got for that. The same thing we'll be talking about tonight is in there. Let me run through this, what we got left in here. And I told you we're going to only have 20 classes ready. I was going to get some more later, but I think I will. Tonight we'll look at the miracles that occurred at the death of Jesus and then the burial. It's kind of what we'll get into tonight. Next time, the resurrection, then the appearances after the resurrection, the different ones, and then the Great Commission to go and preach and what goes on from there to kind of lead into Acts. So that's the classes we have left. Then the last one, we're going through a bunch of the prophecies that were fulfilled during this last week. The prophecy and the fulfillment, prophecy and fulfillment type thing. Some slides I bought, we've got that in there. So that's kind of what we got left to finish up this quarter. Okay, at Jesus' death, miracles. On the cross, started at 3 o'clock. Darkness comes at noon for 3 hours, and now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And Friday afternoon, when we look at it, I'm going to show you a chart at the end that's going to change that up. But we've been counting on Thursday night for all the Passover feast and the John 14, 15, 16, 17, the betrayal, all on Thursday night with the death on the cross on Friday. and the burial on Friday, late Friday evening. That's kind of the time frame we'll be looking at. Show you a chart tonight at the end that's going to kind of blow that out of the water, just for comparisons. So everything's going on in the temple as it would, but then suddenly this great veil that separates the holy place from the most holy place is split from top to bottom. If you look at the three different gospels that talk about that, they will talk about it, two of them, that the death occurred and then the veil was rent. The other one talks about the veil being rent and then the death. So which order they come in? Well, it's kind of like this. Tracy was running out the door and Tim was crawling on the bench. Or I can say Tim's crawling on the bench and Tracy's running out the door. You can't take two simultaneous events. Now you can't say them both at the same time, right? You got to say one then the other. Well, two of the gospel writers just talk about the death and then the veil was rent as it happened. But the other one talks about the veil and then the death. So they went on simultaneously. Get the idea of there. So Tracy could run out the door and Tim crawl on the bench at the same time. I can't tell you both of them overlapping. I got to tell you one then the other. So that's the analogy there with that. So don't get confused over which one actually occurred first. I think they're simultaneous events. That he died and the veil was rent. And then that exposed the most holy place, which keep in mind now, going back to what you know from the Old Testament time, most holy place visited one time a year by the high priest on the Day of Atonement. Other than that, it was nobody back there. It was the most holy place, not visited. That's the big change. The veil opening up opens that up. It opens it up for us. So, what's the significance of it? Well, there's three passages in Hebrews I want you to look at. I'm going to read them. If you want to turn, I'll tell you where they are. They're on the screen there. And it gets the idea of what's happening by this veil being opened up with that. So the first is in Hebrews chapter 6. We'll read it and then we'll come back and look at the points on the slide. Hebrews 6, 17 through 20. Thus God determined to show more abundantly to the heirs of the promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things in which it's impossible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation who have fled for refuge to lay hold of the hope that is set before us. This hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, and which enters the presence behind the veil, where the forerunner has entered for us, even Jesus, having become high priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. So what happened when the veils opened up? Well, we have a hope. And behind the veil is the presence of God. Remember the mercy seat, God's presence among the people. That access to God is now opened up to us through our high priest that's there. Jesus has been there. He's our high priest there forever. And that's what's opened up by the rending of the veil at his death. Big difference. The old law, what we have now. Signified by the splitting of the veil. Okay? So, go to Hebrews 7 then, and we'll look at verse 23 through 27. Hebrews 7:23. Also, there were many priests because they were prevented by death from continuing. The Old Testament, you had to have priests because priests died. You had more priests coming in. But he, Jesus, because he continues forever, has an unchangeable priesthood. Therefore, he is also able to save to the uttermost those who come to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them. For such a high priest was fitting for us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, has become a higher than the heavens, who does not need daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifices, first for his own sins, then for the people's. For this he did once for all when he offered up himself. So, earthly priests die. They had to be replaced, not Jesus. Our high priest lives forever. Big difference, okay? He's a high priest to make intercession for us. He's gone to the heaven, to the presence of God, to make intercession for us. And it's described there in this section. So there's no need for daily sacrifices anymore. He made the sacrifice once for all. And now he's our high priest sitting at the right hand of God. And then in 9, 1 through 4, I'm not going to read all this, it's a little long. But chapter 9 is really a contrast between the old law and what we have now. In chapter 9, the first part of it gives a very clear description, summary type description in a few verses of the Old Testament setup. If you look down through there, it talks about the first part, what was in it, and then verse 3, behind the second veil, the things that were there. Cherubim overshadowed the mercy seat. He said we can't speak in detail about that. And he goes down and talks about the things that went on in that. When the second part, once a year, the high priest did, but so different for us. Verse 11. But Christ came as high priest of the good things to come, with a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is, not of this creation, not with the blood of goats and calves. With his own blood he entered the most holy place once for all, having obtained eternal redemption. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctifies for the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. Such a much greater sacrifice made for us. High priest entered the holiest of all once a day a year, to the presence of God, into the most holy place where the mercy seat was. Still couldn't make them perfect. They had to go back in year after year after year and do it. Okay, Christ is our high priest, offered his own blood one time. Okay, just some of the things that are talked about with that death and what it did and what represented by that veil renting and opening up the most holy place. Access to the mercy seat. Our access to the mercy seat. Presence of God. Okay? Comments about that? Thoughts from anybody? That's big. I mean, it really is. When you think what it does for us versus what they had in the Old Testament time. All right. Some of the miracles that went on. Of course, the rending of the veil is one. The darkness is already covered from noon till 3 o'clock. Another one. But the earth shook, earthquake. Just rocks were split. Tombs were opened. People were raised out of the tombs, went back into the city of Jerusalem and appeared to them. People who had been dead. So they would have known they'd been dead. So these are all events that went on at the time of the death of Christ. Matthew 27, starting about verse 50 through 53, yielded up his spirit, and the temple was torn, the veil was torn from top to bottom, the earth quaked, the rocks were split, the graves were opened, bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised, come out of the graves, his resurrection, back into the holy city and appeared to many. Same thing in Luke 23, starting at verse 44. So major things going on at the death of Christ. Major miracles going on here. I don't know how you're going to take those and develop them with your kids and talk about them, but significance. My emphasis to you is going to be mainly the veil splitting and what it did for us. But you also can talk about these other miracles that went on at the death of Christ. With yours. Okay, Matthew 20, I read through verse 53 then on Matthew 27. The next thing then, is significant, is the centurion who was there. Maybe the same centurion whose men actually did the crucifixion. We don't know. Or they was there watching what's going on from the Roman standpoint. When they saw the earthquake and all things that were going on because of it, look what he said. Truly this was the Son. It's a Roman centurion. Truly this was the Son of God. Now question. Why did he not say, like the inscription said of the top. Truly this was the King of the Jews. So you might buy that. It was the inscription put up there, this is the King of the Jews. There's Roman centurion, so all this stuff going on. He said, this really was a son. That's not what he said. He didn't say that. He said, this is the Son of God. How he knew that, where he got it from, what he had heard, was it chatter of people talking as the crucifixion was going on? I don't know. There's quite an explanation to come from this Roman centurion. When he saw everything that happened, he said, truly this was the Son of God.
Very small word, but he didn't say he was the son of a God.
No.
Because in their time, the normal thing to say
this
is a God.
Right.
He is the son of a
right.
God.
Right.
But he is the son of
God. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Yeah, the Romans would have all kinds of stuff in the Greeks and everybody else. But no, he recognized it. And it's not son of, and look at your text, it's not the son of little g God, it's the Son of God. He recognized who it was. Again, I don't know how he knew, but quite a statement to make from a Roman centurion. That's it. Satan's wins. Jesus is dead. That's what Satan wanted, right? Go back to Genesis 3. What's going to happen? Satan's going to crush his heel. Has he? He died. He's dead. Oh, if history stopped there, where would we be now? All right, this is Friday, late, 3 o'clock. Sabbath's coming up the next day. Their new day starts at 6 p.m. So we got 3-hour window here between the death and time for Sabbath. So they want the bodies off the cross. They don't want them left on there for Sabbath. Remember, we read the passage from the Old Testament that said if a man is put on a tree, on a cross, take the bodies down before sunset. That was from the Old Testament law. Well, that would not be the normal thing for the Romans to do because of the Sabbath. The Jews want them down. So they go to Pilate and want to get the bodies off the cross. So what's Pilate want? He wants to make sure they're dead. So he sends soldiers out there to break the legs. We're going to show us in a minute what that does. Half a second. When you break the legs. Let's go hasten the death through the shock that's going through the body. Torture. That's the big thing Romans are after. Make this a long, prolonged, painful, slow death. A spear would stop it. No, you don't do that. They break the legs. That doesn't kill you. It just hastens your death a little bit. Makes it more painful as you're getting there. A spear would kill you and you'd be over with. No, they're going to break the legs and let them sit there to die. Take all some pass back. I want to read something to you, but it's got so many big words in it. I want you to see it. Okay. This is about death on a cross. Crucifixion. And I doubt you can share much of this with your little ones, but we're big folks, so it's worth looking at. I watched my dad take his last breath. I was in the room when Shirley's dad took his last breath. And what we all ask for with our loved ones to die is a peaceful time to die. My dad was in the nursing home, laid in the bed. One of my sisters, myself, were there. The other 2 siblings were out in the hall. They didn't want to be in there. We just watched as he slowly got a breath. It took longer and longer between each breath. And there wasn't another one. It's just calm and peaceful. There's no. The same thing with Shirley's dad. What you think about Jesus' death. The length of time required to reach death could range from hours to days, depending on the method, the victim's health, and the environment. A literature review by Mousen and Mitchell identified scholarly support for several possible causes of death: cardiac rupture, heart failure, hypovolemic shock, acidosis, asphyxia, arrhythmia, pulmonary embolism. Death could result from any of the combination of those factors, from any other causes, including sepsis, following the infection due to wounds caused by the nails, or the scourging that often preceded crucifixion, eventually hydration or animal predation. Legs were often broken as an act of mercy to the tortured person by hastening death through the severe traumatic shock and fat embolism. A theory attributed to Pierre Barrett holds that when the whole body weight was supported by the stretched arms, the typical cause of death was asphyxiation. Your arms are stretched out and you can't get that breath, can't raise up enough to get it. He wrote that the condemned would have severe difficulty inhaling due to hyperexpansion of the chest muscles and lungs. The condemned would therefore have to draw himself up by his arms, leading to exhaustion, or have his feet supported by tying or to the wooden block. When no longer able to lift himself, the condemned would die within a few minutes. Some scholars, including whatever posited this, causes death. And some guy even went through a bunch of tests, putting somebody's arms out and testing with it. But it was not a pretty, peaceful, calm death. This is what our Savior suffered. We just don't, I don't think we think about it enough, what he really went through. This is after, this death on the cross is after the scourging, after the mocking, after everything else he's gone through, and now to die in this manner. It wasn't just like God sent him here, okay, it's going hit by a brick and killed and die for it. No, it was an intentional, long, slow sacrifice.
It's an interesting parallel or kind of waltz, I guess is the way I would describe it, that's happening all along in these days between the Jews and the Romans and just society in general. That's and just leading into the last part of this with the centurion himself saying he surely was the Son of God. Then they're going to break his legs, and there's just this. It's a very interesting, like religious to societal intertwining, that's happening, and you can see how they're playing off of one another even throughout the whole thing, from the Jews asking for Barabbas to Pilate saying he doesn't want to do anything to him, to it,
Yeah.
There's a whole societal thing here that we can
The interplay
and kind of rise yourself above and just see how, if your motives are selfishly driven on either side, and the Romans were just going to go torture what they wanted to torture. To your point, the Jews, they just didn't want it to be, right?
But illustrate your point. Stephen later is stoned to death, right? How long would it take Stephen to die if he's being stoned to death? I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour. They were beating him to death with rocks. There'd be some suffering there. The Romans got involved, and it's a whole different matter, because they're going to make a torture out of it.
Yeah. It's very...
Yeah. If the Jews had killed Jesus, it would have been probably by stoning, and it would have been over with in, I don't know what time, an hour. Less probably. You'd be knocked in the head and out and unconscious with a big rock. But no, that's not the way he died. So, difference. So they broke the legs of the two thieves. They were still alive, which would just cause what we just read in the paper there. Jesus was already dead. Just to be sure, the soldier pierced his side, and blood and water poured forth when he did. They were making sure Jesus is dead. There's this big theory, he never really died. He just got close to death, and So he didn't die and come back and raised from the dead. No. This Roman soldier, I can assure you, he was making sure this man was dead. That's what Pilate had sent him to do. He made sure he was dead. Okay. Psalms 34, verse 20. He guards all his bones, and not one of them is broken. And in Zechariah 12, verse 10, I will pour out on the house of David and his inhabitants in Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication. They will look on me who they pierced. A couple more of the prophecies regarding this time that's going on. So in the burial, Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph is a rich man. He's one of the members of the Sanhedrin Council. Interesting note in Luke 23, 50 and 51. There was a man whose name was Joseph, a council member, a good and just man. He had not consented to their decision. Indeed. He was from Arimathea, city of the Jews. He was waiting for the kingdom of God. Joseph did not consent to the death. He's the one now that's going to come and go to Pilate and ask him for the body of Jesus. He's been pierced in the side, then with the body's down off the cross. Don't know who'll take the other two down and what happened to him, but Joseph is a believer, did not consent to his death, and wants to get a quote, quote, proper burial, if you will, for him. So he goes to Pilate and asks for the body. Then Nicodemus came, bringing spices. Nicodemus was another member of the council. John chapter 19, verse 38. After this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly, for the fear of the Jews, asked Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus, and Pilate gave him permission. So he came and took the body of Jesus. And Nicodemus, who first came to Jesus by night, that'd be John chapter 3, also came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes and 100 pounds of spices to put in the body. Then they took the body of Jesus, bound it in strips of linen, I guess, with the spices, as the custom was for the Jews to bury someone. So you have two of the Sanhedrin council members who believe in Jesus, and they're the ones who come to take the body down and do the burial. Whoops. And I put a note on here that this is a lesson. That they did not consent to his death. But at some point, there's a time to step up. And Joseph did that. And Nicodemus did that. Even though they're council members, fear the Jews high priest, they wanted this done. They had it done. But now there's a time to step up and show who you are. So they asked for the body and take care of it and get it properly buried. So they wrapped the body up, prepare it for burial. They put it in a garden somewhere near Calvary, where the actual crucifixion took place. It's a new tomb, belonged to Joseph. A new tomb. I'm going to show you a picture of a bunch of tombs here in a minute. Nobody had been buried there before. You'll see why that's important. I'll show you the pictures just in a minute. So they placed the body of Jesus there, having wrapped it in the linen strips with the spices there. No embalming or anything. It's just the way they normally would prepare the body and put it in the tomb. Hewn out of rock. No way could have been escaped somehow the other way. You got to come about all these things. The theories could come up about escaping. No, they rolled a stone across the opening. The Jews wanted it sealed, so Pilate let them seal it, or nobody could open it. John 19:41. That place where he was crucified, there's a garden, a new tomb, which had no one yet been laid. They laid Jesus there because the Jews' preparation day for the tomb was nearby. Then Isaiah 53, verse 9. They made his grave with the wicked but with the rich it is death. Joseph was a rich man. Joseph, because he had done no violence and no deceit found in his mouth. Isaiah 53, verse 9. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, were watching. We already talked about Mary's mother of Jesus being at the cross where Jesus could speak to her, and John. They were watching where he was laid. And they went back then and prepared spices and more perfume things to put in there. They don't do theirs. They come on the first day of the week after the Sabbath to actually put their spices in. Chief priests had remembered that Jesus said, I will rise again after 3 days. So to make sure that's not going to happen, the disciples go in and steal the body away and claim he had risen from the dead. They want it sealed. And so he gives the order to seal the tomb where they can't go in and steal the body. And they set a watch over it. So you see the Psalm sometimes, they watched him there as he was on the cross. If he were to get out, if the disciples had come and stolen his body and claimed he had risen, it's going to cause all kind of grief for the chief priests. They already had it bad enough because here's Lazarus, who they knew was dead, Jesus raised. Now, if he himself had come back to life, the Jews have really got problems. So that's why they're concerned with it. They wanted it tombed and guarded. So all this happened on Friday, as best we can reconstruct. Okay, I'm going to show you the charts in a minute. It's going to change that. So everything stops now for the Sabbath. Just got to pause. And you pick up Sunday morning with the resurrection next. Okay. Look at a couple of things real quick. Temple Mound, the two different ones, I've mentioned that before. The top one is the garden tomb. I'll show you a picture of that. More than likely, it was this one where he was actually buried, based on what they know now. This one was discovered much, much later than that. That's what makes the controversy there. So this is the picture of the garden tomb. This is the one you see a lot of time when you see the death of Jesus. This is the standard one. You see a lot. Trough here where a stone could roll in it right up through there to cover the opening. That's looked inside it. In most tombs, y'all see several pictures here. You can go in and there'll be a place, shelf-like things around where you can lay the body in there. Sometimes there's more than one space in there. Like here's bones laid in one. This is across the back. Over here is another place where you can lay a body that was prepared there. Here's a multiple tombs hewn into solid rock. This picture came from Trent and Rebecca. This is a bone box, the ossuary. So they would lay a body in this tomb area, and then remember how many people were buried in the cave of Macpedo, Abraham's family? Lots and lots and lots of them. Lay a body in there, and then somebody else would be buried, and the body would have started to decay. They'd take the bones up from this ossuary box like this and set those to the side and put the new body on that shelf-like area there. This is what this was, the bone box here. So now looking at this tomb here, that's more than likely the spot, and I don't have any specific pictures of that thing. All right, here's the chart I want you to look at for a minute. Look at the top, the days: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. According to this theory, I got two different sources of charts I want to show you, just so you have an idea. Passover, all that thing's there. Betrayal, crucifixion, started at 9 o'clock, died around 3 o'clock, body placed in the tomb before sunset on Wednesday. Okay, I'm get a little closer shot now so you see it better. So all this happened on Wednesday, not the Thursday we've been talking about. And what they're trying to do is get 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb. If he's buried on Thursday, raised on Sunday, buried on Friday, raised on Sunday. The way Jews counted time, a part of a day would count as a day. So you got Thursday in the tomb, you got Friday in the tomb, Saturday in the tomb, Sunday in the tomb. How many nights you got? 2. The way we normally count it. This approach here, don't get that. But they have him going to die on Wednesday, and then this is a special Sabbath, and you read a lot about this if you're reading about it. Here's a normal Sabbath on Saturday over here. This is a high Sabbath that occurred every so many years, and it's in combination with this feast that's going on now at this time. So then they bring spices here, and he raised them. Look what day here. So you've got Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. He's raised on Saturday, according to this. Women come then, not do anything on Saturday. The women come then on Sunday morning and find the empty tomb. And here's another one just like it from a different source. It goes at it the same approach. Getting 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb. And you can do with that what you like, as far as your own mind. Although you won't teach it to the kids, but thinking about it. Different approach. Everything happening on Wednesday to get all the days and all the nights. And actually raised on Saturday, not the first day of the week. Tomb found empty on the first day of the week, but not raised there. That's all.